Hey guys, how's it going? Over the past few weeks or so, I've made Fatebringer my main hand cannon, taken Fatebringer into multiple trials weekends, got over 1,000 kills on Fatebringer, and used all of Fatebringer's kinetic 140 competition, all in the effort of finding out if Fatebringer really was outclassed by some of our new favorite hand cannons, or if it's what your loadout has really needed all along. Sub to the channel if you would like to see more high quality PvP focused videos like this one, and let's jump straight in, starting with the perks. When choosing what to go for the secondary perks, I'd recommend focusing on range and stability for the additional damage fall off, decreased recoil, and increased flinch resistance. With that in mind, we're going with extended barrel, hyperforce rifling, or small bore for the barrel, accurized rounds for the magazine, and a ranged masterwork. I know Fatebringer isn't craftable, so the likelihood of getting a perfect roll here is pretty low. So, like I said before, just try to prioritize range and stability, and you should be okay. Now that we have the secondary perks out of the way, let's take a look at the perks that are really going to define your role, starting with the third column. Off rip, there are 3 perks here we should really be avoiding, except for in niche case scenarios. Those perks are Thresh, Osmosis, and Rewind rounds. There might be some weird build with Osmosis or volatile rounds, but in reality, they don't compete with the perks we should actually be considering for PvP. Those being Killing Wind, Tunnel Vision, and Explosive Payload. Killing Wind grants 50 mobility, 40 handling, and 20 range on weapon kill. Now, all those stat bumps are very good, but I don't generally like perks that take effect after winning your first gunfight, because, and pay attention here Jungle Squad, if you lose your first fight, then there won't be a second fight at all. Just think about it. If I'm playing a match with Trials of Osiris, and my opponent is using a weapon that is set up to passively make it easier for him to hit shots, and actively makes it harder for me to hit mine, and I'm using my once I get 3 kills and am Radiant, I can 2-tap perk setup, well, it's pretty obvious who's going to have an easier time winning that gunfight. And if I do, say, end up losing that gunfight, then I might as well have not been using any perks at all. Now, you might be thinking, well, Jolts, fair enough, but what about control? There are more players for me to both use and proc my kill perks on, and you do have a point. However, you're still having no perks active for the first fight of each one of your lives. So go on Crucible Report and see how many times you are dying in a control match. That is at least how many fights you're taking without your perks active. So, despite the great increase to stats Killing Wind can provide, due to its activation, I'm going to recommend against using it over one of our later perks. On that note, let's take a look at our next perk, Tunnel Vision. Unfortunately, Tunnel Vision has the very similar problem to Killing Wind, with the only difference being you have to reload on top of getting a kill, and it grants benefits to accuracy, cone size, and aim assist instead of range, handling, and mobility. So, like Killing Wind, Tunnel Vision isn't as good as our last perk, Explosive Payload. Explosive Payload is straight up one of, if not the best hand cannon perk in the entire game. It's so good in fact that almost every stream lobby you can find completely bans the perk outright. The reason for this is it splits half of your damage into explosive damage that isn't affected by damage fall off. Now, at first, that might not seem like that big of a deal. However, when you take into account that explosive rounds both apply significantly more flinch than a regular hand cannon shot and allow you to kill opponents hiding behind cover, it's easy to see why Explosive Payload is truly so good. So, in my opinion, Explosive Payload is definitely the perk to go with in the third column, but what about the fourth? Well, the fourth column, like the third, also has some perks we should not be considering for PvP, those being Frenzy, Adrenaline Junkie, and Firefly. The actual PvP perks we're going to be talking about are Kill Clip, Opening Shot, and Eye of the Storm. Kill Clip, like Tunnel Vision, unfortunately suffers from the fact that it is a kill and reload to proc perk, and for that reason, I'm going to recommend staying away from it. When it comes to both Eye of the Storm and Opening Shot, I honestly don't think you could go wrong, with Opening Shot providing help on your first shot of attack, and Eye of the Storm providing help on your second and third shots. So, if you find yourself often not hitting the first shot of an engagement, and or are slightly just not getting a kill due to a little bit of damage fall off, then go with Opening Shot. But if you find yourself sometimes missing that third shot of an engagement, as statistically that is the hardest to hit due to accuracy, cone size, and flinch resistance, then go with Eye of the Storm. I personally prefer Eye of the Storm, but I'm gonna say they're both the best fourth column perks, depending on what you need. So, now that we have the perks out of the way, let's find out if Fatebringer really is the best hand cannon in the game by comparing it to pretty much every other top 140. Now, just for transparency, I did use every other hand cannon we are about to compare Fatebringer to in preparation for this review, just to see how they actually perform in game. So, without further ado, let's take a look at their stats. Now, when comparing stats on hand cannons, I like to start with stability and range, as I think they're the most important. And when comparing Fatebringer's range and stability to our other top hand cannons, it's looking very promising, with it having straight up better range and stability than every other hand cannon except for Ace of Spades and Austringer. In an Ace of Spades case, it does have significantly more range than Fatebringer, and Fatebringer does have significantly more stability than Ace. This doesn't make up for the difference in range, but it does make it a little bit more of a trade-off. When it comes to Austringer, it has slightly more stability and slightly less range, In my opinion, range is much more valuable than stability on hand cannons. So I would personally prefer Fatebringer's stats over Austringers, but that really could vary depending on the player and their needs. Now, let's take a look at aim assist, another very important stat on hand cannons. And it's looking a little bit worse for Fatebringer here, with it being slightly outclassed by Rose and Thorn and significantly outclassed by Hawkmoon. But as I said before, range and stability at the end of the day are the most important. And unfortunately for Hawkmoon, it suffers from very low range. And the difference in aim assist when it comes to both Thorn and Rose is really quite minuscule. So I believe Fatebringer has the second best stats in the game, just behind Ace of Spades. Now that we understand how our hand cannon stack up stat-wise, let's find out what the ideal hand cannon perk combos are in hopes of finally finding out which of these hand cannons are truly the best. And in my opinion, those combos are Slide Shot Explosive Payload, Opening Shot Explosive Payload, and Either Storm Explosive Payload. Unfortunately, the only legendary hand cannons that roll with these perk combos are Fatebringer and Rose. So if there is any legendary hand cannon that could be better than Rose and Fatebringer due to the combination of both S tier perks and stats. When it comes to exotics, I don't think that Hawkmoon can really compete due to its kind of gimmicky exotic trait and extremely low range. And I think Thorn could have an argument for, especially in Checkmate, but just like Hawkmoon, it's held back by its poor range stat. So that leaves us with Fatebringer, Rose, and Ace of Spades. And I honestly don't think you can pick one best out of these three, as they all have slight advantages over one another in different aspects. And for that reason, become more valuable depending on what type of player you are. So for overall consistency, I would definitely go with Fatebringer. If you find yourself sliding a bunch and lightweight frames boost to mobility is something you can take advantage of, then go with Rose. And for the highest range, most steamrollable hand cannon that has the best version of kill clip, go with Ace of Spades. So Fatebringer definitely isn't the best hand cannon in the game. However, this is the most impressed I have ever been with a weapon during a review, and Fatebringer is completely legitimately going to be my main hand cannon for the foreseeable future. So if you're a veteran PvP player that has every god roll in the game, or if you're a brand new player just looking for a great hand cannon to use and control, I think you'll have a hard time taking off Fatebringer once you finally put it on. Thanks for watching, and have an amazing day.